Hello again, everyone. I'm Bob Kolt, and we're continuing our conversations in the Lansing School District. And it is an honor to have His Honor, the Mayor of Lansing, Virg Bernero, join us today. Virg, everybody is talking about the Lansing Pathway Promise Bond that's coming up. And you've seen a lot of, you have a first family engaged. Your wife has been working with the school district for a long time, a dedicated principal, and you have a long association with the school district. What are your thoughts now about the bond issue as it comes for a public vote?
Well, Bob, you're right. I've got it in the family, and we're personally associated with the schools, and I've been in and out of most all the schools in Lansing. Had the honor to go in and read to kids and help out in classrooms all across the city, which is always a great experience. However, lately, I got to say, I've noticed the state of some of our buildings. And when I was a state senator, I got around to more of the other schools as well in the suburbs. And there's increasingly a disparity in that. And we have great kids, as you know, they're learning. There's some great things happening. I was over at Everett and saw some of the high tech, I forget what do you call it?
Yeah, the New Tech High.
New Tech High,
yeah.
Incredible stuff, the cutting edge stuff. And I go to this mayor stuff, I see what's going on around the country, and we can compete with the best of them in the country in terms of the kids and the talent. We're not holding up on the competition in terms of the facilities. And at a certain point, that's got to impact what goes on in the classroom. When the halls are dingy and dimly lit, we just don't compare to some of those schools out in the suburb. And that's through no fault of the teachers, the administration, because we haven't had the money to put into the facilities. And I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. Yeah. And so, of course, I support the bond.
It's a unique time because a previous bond is expiring, and really to move to this Lansing Pathway Promise with educational promise and a pathway for young people, not only through the K-12 system, but also to higher ed now with the Lansing Promise Scholarship that you've really helped to create. You must feel really good that we're on the right track. This is an election that will come up, and really it's not going to cost people a whole lot of money. Lansing has a low millage rate compared to all of the other school districts. So do you think the stars are lining up here on this bond proposal?
I pray to God they are, and they'll certainly have my strong support. We are doing the right things. Under Yvonne's leadership, under the superintendent's leadership and the school board, I see that you're making the right decisions, the right moves. And like I say, I'm not just looking from 30,000 feet. I'm in the buildings, and I see what's going on. And these kids it's amazing. We can compete, but the buildings are tired. And it is a relative pittance for us to invest in our children. And when you invest in your children, you are investing in the future. There are things that are not a great bet. Sometimes you wonder if any investment in the stock market, even. If I look at my 401k, and I sometimes wonder, what in the world? I'm putting in more money than I'm getting out. I don't. Sometimes you wonder, where can I put my money? When we put our money in our kids, when we put our money in our children's future in education, there is always a payoff. There's always a payout. And now is the time for us to do that. Well, otherwise, we're going to get outstripped by technology. That's one thing. The technology, our schools, I'm not preaching to the converted, but just to do what we need to do with today's technology, the buildings sometimes are ill-equipped to handle that technology. We need to really leapfrog. We really need to make big leaps forward. And the school district has always been very careful about that, how they invest, where they invest. You reuse the buildings. I see this in Lansing more than I see in any district around, Bob. Us reusing buildings where they can be reused. And reconfiguring, reformatting, repurposing. But you can only do that so much. At a certain point in the year 2016, we may have to build some things. We may have to expand some things. And I trust you all to make those decisions. You've got a great leadership team, but our kids are worthy of the investment. There's no question about that. No question in my mind. And for those who might think that, the city's doing well, and we are. We've got growth. We've got investment. The business community, they pay attention to the schools. They pay attention to the graduates coming out. They need those graduates. You talk about pathway promise. That needs to be a pathway to college and to jobs. We've got people that are needed in manufacturing. We need a pathway to skilled trades, and you're doing that. And that's one of the things I'm excited about. The school district gets it, that not every kid, we want to have college for every kid that wants it, but not every kid will go to college. And for those who are skilled with their hands, guess what? We need you in the skilled trades. We need apprentices, we need electricians, plumbers, and they get paid good money. So we need a pathway for those things, and you're working on that. But we've got to have the facilities. You've got the talent, you've got the teachers, you've got the commitment. We've got to have the facilities. That's what this bond is about. You have my strong support. You will have my vote.
How do you tell people at home, especially for seniors, if they're paying taxes and making an investment, that this is a good investment? This is kind of an investment in their own property value to a great extent, and the future of the city and the schools are really tied together, aren't they?
Absolutely, absolutely. It reminds me of the question about sidewalks. You know, every once in a while when we put in a sidewalk, at first people say, well, you know, I'm worried about my property value. There's never been a sidewalk that reduced somebody's property value, even if you have to upturn a mailbox or two. It's an investment that pays, and schools are like that. You want to sell your house someday? The quality of the school system matters. And Lansing has a solid system. We need to keep it that way. We need to grow. It's the year 2016. Things are happening. Technology is happening. We need to be up with that. And like I say, the look and the feel of the buildings matters too. You know, we need to send that message to our kids that they matter, and that they feel that investment. I know they feel the commitment from the teachers, from the staff. It's there, and they need to feel it also in the environs. You can only stretch and hold them together for so long. You've used everything. You've extended the life of these buildings, but more must be done. And so the bond issue is an investment not only in your kids, it is an investment in your biggest investment, which for most people is their homes. You're going to have a harder time selling that house if the school system is not seen as viable. And we need to make that investment and keep the Lansing School District on the cutting edge.
The biggest challenge, I think, for a city like Lansing is that we don't have the development that they would in a suburb with, you know, open green areas and a new subdivision. So there's an older housing stock, and you know, that's great for young people with young kids coming in, but sometimes people don't want to buy an older home. So that's always a challenge. That's why if people say, why is there declining enrollment? We just don't have enough new homes. I would imagine as mayor, people look to locate in a city and they want to say, well, what sort of development opportunities do we have? That must always be an ongoing challenge for you.
No question. We've been very fortunate. As you know, there's been a little bit of a building boom. We've got cranes in the air for apartments for young people and even empty nesters. You know, it's interesting. We've got some empty nesters moving in next to young people. I've talked to some that have moved downtown and love it. It wouldn't be something I would do, but we're getting a real eclectic mix of people and developing different neighborhoods in the downtown, on the east side. So we have stopped our population decline.
Yeah.
But to get young families, you're right, Bob, it's a challenge. And we're fortunate. We've got some beautiful neighborhoods in Lansing, on the west side, the east side, the north side, where people have taken very good care of their homes. So there are values there. There's no question about it. I think you have to look a little harder. I think for some it's easier to say, oh, well, let's go out to the suburbs. And a lot of times people operate on perceptions about homes, perceptions about schools. And I encourage people dig in and really dig in, find out about that neighborhood that maybe you grew up in, or that your aunt lived in, or that your mother had a house in. Go find out about that elementary school and what's going on there. And I think what you'll find is a lot of great things are happening in Lansing neighborhoods and in Lansing schools. And they do go together, as you say, they go together, a growing city and a growing school district. So we have stopped our population decline these last 2 years. Prior to that, we were losing population every year. We've halted that. And I think we need to become that place. And the Pathway Promise is going to be one way. The Lansing Promise Scholarship is going to be one thing that helps, I think, to attract families to take another look at Lansing, the city, and the schools, and say, wait a minute, there are opportunities and options in the Lansing School District that you won't find in other school districts, even in this area.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Promise Scholarship, too, because you had the vision to really say, let's move forward on this, because it could have gone and been adopted by many other communities, but Lansing really stepped forward to develop the Promise. And now in times a little bit better, maybe there'll be some growth that would allow the Promise Scholarship to capture some revenue toward that. That's got to be attractive to a mayor who's really promoting a great city.
No question. This is, again, one of the things that puts down a welcome mat for families with children, to say, now you've got an option, you've got a promise in Lansing that your kids who stay in school and do well, and we're not even necessarily, they don't have to have a 4-point, but your kids who stay in school and stay out of trouble and graduate will have 2 years of college waiting for them at Lansing Community College or Michigan State University. 2 years paid for, waiting for them, just waiting for them to claim. That is something that is not in place in most schools around the country, and certainly not in Michigan. So I think some people have been surprised, and we're looking at how to market that better. I think both the city and the school district, to make sure people know that that is available to them, that that's out there. That is not. And that's a statement that this community, the business community and individuals have invested, that we believe in our young people. We invest in our young people. We have really a heritage of doing that. We have that reputation, and it's true. We are investing. How many communities, and I tell the young people that, what an incredible community Lansing is, where we believe in you, and we've got this scholarship waiting for you, and all you have to do is go to school, take it seriously, graduate, and we believe in you so much, we're investing in you in taking that next step of 2 years of college.
And you talked a little bit about perceptions, and there may be a negative perception from people in outlying communities, but if you were the mayor of Detroit, for instance, who I know that you've heard speak recently, that's a community with a lot of problems. Now, there's a tremendous growth downtown, but Lansing is not Detroit. Lansing's had a really well-organized budget process. Even the money's handled well by the school district. So we don't have nearly those kinds of problems. Do you always fight that kind of perception city problem?
I think so. I think most all quote-unquote urban core cities face that. Lansing, for those who know, who live here or in the area, it's a big, small town. Yeah. We're a big, small town where most people, you don't know everybody, but you're 1 or 2 people away from just about everybody. And you can get help. There's not a big bureaucracy, either in the school system or the city, when you talk about growing a business or growing a family and getting access to services or whatever. Lansing, I think, is a very manageable town. I visit cities. I belong to the Mayor's Conference. I'm delighted to go and learn from Indianapolis and Columbus and other cities. Always delighted to come back to Lansing. So proud to call Lansing home, and the gains that we have made from Hollister on. There was a time when we were sort of in decline. We were headed in the wrong direction. GM was talking about leaving. We faced massive challenges, and I think Mayor Hollister started that turnaround to say, wait a minute, we're not going down that way. I think had we not had some serious leadership, some strong leadership, I like to think that I'm in the mold of and following up on and building on what Mayor Hollister started, that foundation, where he turned things around. And I think people began to look at Lansing differently. We're not an economic basket case. We could talk about other cities, Detroit and a number of others that have had emergency managers and other big problems. We have our challenges, but we take them head on. We don't shrink from them. And that's really what I think this Pathway Promise Bond initiative is about, that we're not waiting for something else. We're not waiting for manna from heaven or for somebody to come in and save us. We are taking the bull by the horns. We are taking our future, looking at and coming together collectively and saying it's our future, and we're going to lift ourselves by the bootstraps. If we're waiting for the state or the federal government or some foundation to come in and save us, you're waiting for something that may never come, that probably will not come. And fortune befriends the bold, I believe. And we have been bold. I think that under Yvonne, the school district has, and the leadership you've got at the board here, you have been bold. Now, that means you're going to step on a few toes, you're going to ruffle a few feathers, but we're not going quietly into that good night like some of these other districts and cities have, and we don't have to. We're a great city. We have great children. We have great talent here, and we are all pulling together to take it to the next level. And I believe we can. The Lansing School District can be on the cutting edge, and Lansing, the city, will be on the cutting edge.
I've got to ask you just to share your knowledge a little bit, because I don't know many people who have spent as much time under the dome, Capitol Dome, as you have. You've got to really question some of the things that go on there, and I know you did in the Senate and as a state rep. it's hard for a school district to figure out what the lawmakers are doing. And
Oh, Bob, I cannot imagine. I mean, it's tough enough for me at the city, but school districts in particular, these legislators with term limits, you've got people coming and going. You've got a revolving door. And so a guy will come in and all of a sudden become chair of the education committee in either the House or the Senate. I'm not picking on any one individual, but they'll come in and maybe they were just running a landscape business or something else, and now they're chair of the education committee. Next thing you know, they're pounding the gavel, coming up with a new law, new regulations, talking about accountability this and accountability that. Where's the accountability for these legislators that come up with these laws? Every year, there's a new mandate, either from the federal government or the state. I don't know how you possibly keep up with it. And I talk to classroom teachers, what they are up against. Never mind the challenges that the kids bring, the challenges that the legislature brings with constantly changing standards, constantly. And the people I know in education, including my wife, they're not afraid of tough standards. They implement that every day. They're not afraid of hard work. They work hard every day. They always have. But the one thing they do have to worry about is this mindless regulation, one on top of the other, sometimes contradictory new rules from the federal government and state government. Meanwhile, they're busy with the real business of educating our children.
Yeah.
I'm amazed. I frankly am amazed sometimes that you can get anything done with the nonsense that comes out of Lansing and Washington.
Yeah. Well, so give us a little tease, because you have the State of the City coming up. I know you're preparing and ready to go, but what do you want people to know about the state of the city as a promotion for what you're doing?
So you want the preview, the sneak preview.
The sneak preview. Give us a little tease so that people will...
The state of the city, the theme, it's a top secret, is going to be Accelerate Lansing. I'll tell you that. Accelerate Lansing. Think about that. Accelerate. Put your foot on the gas. That's what we're doing in Lansing. Now, you're the first person to know that. And you guys. That's what we're doing in Lansing. We are moving forward quickly. I couldn't be more excited. I couldn't be more delighted to work for the people of Lansing and to be mayor of Lansing. Like I say, I get the chance to go to Washington to advocate on Lansing's behalf and on behalf of cities. There's not a one of these mayors that I meet and talk to and I say, boy, I'd like to go be mayor of that city. Although in February it's tempting to go to St. Petersburg, to wish I was in St. Petersburg, Florida or something. But this is a great community, and I'm really proud to be able to represent and work for us.
And you've had great success in watching what's been happening at General Motors and celebrating it. That's huge for the city as well.
Can you imagine if we had lost GM either when Hollister was there, if they had really left town, if he had not been successful, I know you were a part of that, successful in convincing them to stay and reinvest, or if we had lost, if the president had not, two presidents had not intervened to save GM and they had been broken up or something. Praise God, they are investing, reinvesting, doubling down on their investment, both in the Lansing Grand River plant, where we now have the beautiful new award-winning Chevy Camaro made in Lansing, along with our Cadillac brand, and the Lansing Delta plant where they're making the next generation SUVs, where I drive a Buick Enclave, which is made at the Lansing Delta plant. Beautiful, incredible vehicle. Absolutely. That's a big part of our success, and thank God for those investments, for winning that over. And now, of course, GM sees and is committed to that workforce. It's kudos to the great UAW GM workforce, our workers, our skilled trades workers. Again, we talked about the pathway promise, the need to have kids that take care of those, have a path for those kids who are good with their hands, who are interested in the skilled trades. And manufacturing, we got to have people to feed that pipeline if we want to keep GM. And that was a big part of General Motors' decision then and now to continue to reinvest in this region, is we make the things that make America great. We make things. We're good at it. It's in our DNA. And that means we have to continue to produce the workers who are interested in that and where there is innovation. And that's so important to our future, Bob. It's so important that we not have all the manufacturing go overseas. That's where a lot of innovation, where a lot of patents come from. It's from the factory floor. It's from workers actually doing a process and saying, wait a minute, this can be done better, and then taking it on to the next thing. That's what I mean when I talk about the cutting edge. It means doing things, being engaged in it right here. And we do that. We're a manufacturing mecca. Here we've got Pratt Whitney, we've got aircraft, we've got medical technology, we've got biomedicine, biohealth products with Neogen and Niawave. We've got stuff, from at all different levels, metal and fabricating. We do it all in Lansing. and the Lansing schools and Lansing Community College are on the need to be right there on the cutting edge with us to make sure that we're building those jobs of the future.
Well, everybody in the Lansing School District appreciates your support of public education. Lansing Mayor Virg Bernero, I'm Bob Kolt. We'll continue our conversations in the Lansing School District.